We have seen legacy manufacturers in the past give us electric crossovers, such as the Volkswagen ID4, Audi e-tron, Ford Mustang Mach-E, Jaguar I-Pace, and of course the Tesla Model X and Y. But a lot of vehicles that don't have the Tesla badge aren't necessarily the most serious competitors in the EV world because of one issue, and that is range. Sure, you can give us a great amount of performance. You can give us that propulsion, the ability to push us back in the seat. But range is the one thing that's holding a lot of customers back. That range anxiety is still here in 2022, and personally, I think that's unacceptable. Now, the BMW iX might be the solution. In fact, the 2022 iX has a range of 324 miles. Now, if you do opt for the 21-inch wheels, that will drop to 304 miles of range. But it cracks that 300-mile mark, whereas a lot of competitors are still around 230 to 275. And that right there is going to set the tone for this review. Now, BMW is making some big leaps in the EV world. We saw it with the i8 and the i3, but now in 2022, we have the i4 and the iX. And for the first time ever, we might just have two vehicles that can take on Tesla and really change the game in the EV market. So in this video, we're going to take a good long look at the 2022 BMW iX, see how it compares to the Tesla Model X when it comes to range and performance, and also see if this is the new standard for the EV world. Now, before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to Herb Chambers BMW Sudbury in Sudbury, Massachusetts, for allowing me to do this review. The link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive BMW inventory. Also, before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live on the channel. And so, without wasting any further time, let's get right in this review. The EV market in 2022 is rapidly growing, with new vehicles being unveiled or arriving at showrooms throughout the year. However, even with the slew of options now available to consumers, Tesla is still the undisputed king of electric cars, as range and performance up to this point have been unmatched. While legacy manufacturers appear to be in no hurry to take a giant leap forward and compete head-to-head with Tesla in a meaningful way, it's BMW that has stepped to the plate and is ready to become a factor in this new era for automobiles. The all-new iX is possibly the first practical, family-friendly, and sensible EV crossover not named the Model X that we've ever seen, and this could very well be the beginning of BMW being known as the ultimate electric driving machine. Starting off with pricing, the BMW iX comes in at $83,200, which when cross-shopped against its closest rival, the Tesla Model X, is about 30 grand less, allowing you to tack on extra features and packages to optimize the ownership experience. What's intriguing about this EV is its size, as photos and videos can make it appear as though the iX is proportionate to an X7. In reality, it has the length of an X5 and the height of an X6, but is 2 inches thinner than both vehicles just mentioned. Not being known as an off-roader by any means, the iX does have a ground clearance of 8.8 inches, and with the press of a button, you can lower the air suspension for a sleeker look. Speaking of the design, this EV has been subjected to a lot of criticism, as its boxier body lines, massive front grills, sloping roofline, and thinner taillights for the rear fascia has all drawn the ire of BMW loyalists. Some even claim that the optional sports package enhances the cosmetic styling too much, as the gloss black accents for the lower portion of the front bumper are far more prominent than on our model, possibly clashing a bit with the exterior body color, whereas this iX maintains a lower and less assuming profile. Standard for the iX, the shadow line accents adds definition to those front grills, and despite not being functional in a traditional sense, BMW claims that they're self-healing, where scratches will gradually disappear. And we'll have to take their word for it, as BMW Sudbury probably wouldn't appreciate us testing this feature for research purposes. The iX is the embodiment of simplicity and minimalism, as it could be argued it's not the most striking BMW to be produced. However, there's key aspects of this crossover that make a bold statement, letting the EV world know that the ultimate driving machine will be a serious player in the present and future. Moving over to the side profile, this iX is equipped with the optional 21-inch Aero bicolor wheels, which aesthetically speaking is more visually appealing than the 20s that come standard. When it comes to the suspension and ride quality, that's where the iX shows its worth, as it traverses imperfections in the road exceptionally well, reflecting the price tag and its premium luxury ambiance and demeanor. A design feature that will likely be making its way on future BMWs are the door handles, or lack thereof. Instead, you have to reach in the slot and press on the button and the door will open. You'll have body color folding side mirrors with turn signal indicators, to go along with blind spot detection for added safety. Then coming around to the back, the minimalism continues, with the somewhat sportback roofline, gloss black contrasting accents, and uncharacteristically thin taillights for a BMW, which pretty much sums up the iX when taking a glance at this crossover from the rear. To a certain degree, this EV appears to be concept car-like, where the design is very futuristic. However, it's a tangible object that gives consumers a vision of where the brand is heading 10 to 20 years down the road. But rather than spinning on a platform at an auto show, we can interact and experience it in real time as we would with an X5 or X7. Unlike most EVs, there's no frunk, so we can't open the hood to see what's inside. However, the BMW emblem does pop open, revealing a reservoir where you can fill the iX with windshield washer fluid. When it comes to performance, the iX is powered by dual electric motors to give you 516 horsepower and 564 pound-feet of torque, propelling you to a 0 to 60 time around 4.4 seconds. While slightly slower than the Tesla Model X, the driving dynamics is where BMW has the upper hand, as this crossover does provide more feedback when cornering, and despite its weight of over 5,500 pounds, the iX is relatively maneuverable. Yet, where BMW's latest EV grabs attention and possibly is setting the bar for legacy manufacturers is the range of 324 miles on a full electric charge if you opt for the 20-inch wheels. This is very competitive with the Model X's 333 miles of range and is far better than the Audi e-tron and Jaguar I-Pace. Before stepping inside, let's focus on the door panels. The controls for your power adjustable seats are now found here, much like we see with Mercedes-Benz. But grabbing our attention is the button that allows you to exit the iX, rather than having a latch. However, there is a lever near the door sills if for some reason there's an electrical problem impeding on your ability to get out of this crossover. Our model was equipped with the perforated Sensitech seats, but you can opt for cloth or perforated leather. But throughout my time with the iX, the comfort and support for these seats didn't have me begging for a different upholstery. Unique to this EV is the heated leather-wrapped hexagonal steering wheel, which you would think would create a bit of a learning curve, but to my surprise, it's easy to find a comfortable position and steering isn't a hassle. As we first saw on the i4, BMW's new digital display and user interface infuses modern tech to amplify your experience behind the wheel, as now the digital gauge cluster is customizable, allowing you to scroll through different configurations where you can display the navigation map and see what radio station or song you're currently listening to. The revamped head-up display is clearer and easier to read than ever before, and this too can be customized to your liking. Then moving over to the infotainment system, BMW's iDrive8 user interface fits the aura and premium luxury feel of the iX quite well. And not as noticeable with the i4, this screen is curved towards you to provide better access and limit sun glare. Since this model isn't fully equipped, there's not crystallized buttons or the wood grain trim touchpad, but buyers will love the rotary dial and quick access buttons that'll help navigate your way through the different menus. As with any BMW, there will be drive modes, all affecting steering and throttle response, but best of all, you can customize the regen braking, which will be demonstrated during the test drive. With the interior being as simplistic as the road presence, All your climate controls will be found on the screen rather than on the dashboard, as BMW continues to cut back on physical buttons. And when it comes to safety, there'll be a variety of camera angles to choose from to help park the iX. Returning to the center console, you'll have a wireless phone charging pad and 2 cup holders conveniently out of sight. And for the storage compartment, there'll be enough room for smaller items. To round out the front seating area, a panoramic sunroof that can change from being transparent to opaque with the press of a button will certainly get passengers talking on longer drives. Now moving on to the second row, we're going to start off on the passenger side. And this seat is adjusted further back, it's also somewhat on a recline. In fact, I could have gone further as the front row seats are very adjustable to the point that you can find your comfort zone no matter what size you are, especially if you are a driver or the front passenger. But I have plenty of legroom back here, and the iX is around the same length as the X5, and the X5 is very accommodating and family friendly, and the iX is no different. Now there are a few things I do want to point out here. You are going to notice immediately that there are 2 USB-C inputs mounted on the backs of the front seats, so that way you can plug it in easily, and you can be on your iPhone or your iPad. But also there is a small compartment, and this allows you to connect the accessories that come with the iX, such as a coat hanger. Now also when it comes to the headroom, you would think that the iX, with its sloping roofline, even though it's not as aggressive as the X6, might not be as spacious as the X5, and yet you have plenty of headroom. I don't think anybody needs to worry about hitting your head on a headliner, unless they're maybe on the outboard seats, but even then, the pillars are pretty high, so I think it's very spacious back here for sure, whether it is legroom or headroom. But what about that shoulder room? Because as we're moving on to the center seat, you are going to notice that the iX is a bit thinner than the X5. However, there is no aggressive center hump, and that allows you to fit a third person back here, whether it is an average size adult or even a small child. And that is fantastic to see, because at this price point, at around $83,000 to start, you don't really have a lot of family-friendly alternatives for the EV world. And I think the iX is one of the first ones that's giving you that, even though the Tesla Model X is very practical. The Tesla Model X starts at around $114,000, whereas the BMW iX really is a significantly cheaper and more affordable option. But if you are looking to trade in your X5, you are going to have the ability to still fit that third person in the center. So that way you're not really losing out on anything. You're not sacrificing anything. And that's why I think a lot of buyers are going to love what the iX is offering when it comes to the interior. Then on the driver's side, this seat is adjusted to someone of my height, around 5'5". And I have plenty of legroom to work with here. In fact, I can just sit back, relax, and enjoy the driving experience and the long road trip. Now, even if there was somebody around the height of 6 feet tall in front of me, I'm still going to be very comfortable, even at around 5'5". So again, it's very family friendly, very accommodating, very spacious, and because there's not a lot of competitors in this market, I think the iX is definitely going to draw in those buyers looking for luxury, comfort, but also the interior spacing and practicality. That's exactly what the iX is offering. Then when it comes to the rest of the features for the second row, you're going to have an air vent on the B pillar for each side of the second row seating area, 1 on the floor, also 2 for the center console. And I tested out the airflow for this vehicle, and it's really great. I think you're going to be nice and cool during the summer and nice and warm during the winter. You're also going to have climate control back here to go along with 3 level heated outboard seats. And then rounding out the second row seating area, you are going to have a center armrest with 2 cup holders. Now coming around to the back, you're going to receive a power liftgate. And BMW claims you're going to get right around 35.5 cubic feet of room behind the second row of seats. Now I am not entirely sold on those numbers for a few reasons. The BMW X5, which is basically the same size as the iX, comes in at 33.9 cubic feet of room. Then factor in the iX is 2 inches thinner, but also the fact you have the lower roofline, and of course with the rear cargo cover not sliding forwards and backwards on rails like we see with the X5, I think that will affect your overall cargo capacity. Now BMW could be factoring in the cargo space beneath the floor mat where you can fit your charging cables or anything else of value, and that might be adding to the equation when it comes to how much space you have back here behind the second row seats. Now, I was able to fit all my camera gear today and then some. That's 2 bags of camera gear, a gimbal box, and a tripod, and I could still go grocery shopping after, which I think is really great to see because we haven't really had a lot of practical EVs in this market, and it's great to see that the BMW iX can also be family friendly as well. I think you'll be able to fit probably 4 to 5 bags of luggage back here if you are going on a road trip with the family. Then with the second row seats folded, you're looking at right around 78 cubic feet of room, which again is still great to see, but I'm not entirely sold on those numbers though, just because that's better than the X5. So even if that is true, that is fantastic for an EV and really BMW's first electric crossover. Then on the right side of the rear cargo area, you will have some buttons that will lower the second row seats, so that way you're not standing there manually lowering them, and you can spend more time loading this crossover up with your luggage. And then once you're done, just press the button and the lift gate will close automatically. As we set off on this test drive for the BMW iX, a number of car reviewers start off their video with the controversial exterior, saying that it's a bit too futuristic, it's a bit too boxy, and they start questioning why BMW decided to go in that direction for the exterior design. But then when they check out the interior and then they do the test drive, that's where they do a complete 180. Now, our model doesn't have all the bells and whistles. We don't have all the crystallized buttons. But I gotta be honest, even without that feature, without the luxury package, this is actually a very impressive EV. And it's really just because of the driving experience and driving dynamics. When you are on roads that have really bad imperfections, the suspension is very smooth. A lot of EVs don't have the best suspensions. I would argue they feel more like a sports tune suspension, just the way EVs handle. That's mostly due to the weight. Now keep in mind the iX is around 5,600 pounds. That's heavier than an X5, and really for a vehicle of this size, that is quite heavy. But what I am noticing here immediately is that the steering is pretty light. Now, I think when you look at what BMW is doing with their EVs, they're trying to still give you the dynamic feel. They're trying to give you the typical BMW ultimate driving machine experience. But I do believe, though, that when it comes to EVs, that's where BMW is going to have to straddle a very fine line. Personally, at around $83,200 to start, and on the higher end, close to $114,000, I think a lot of buyers are looking for luxury, especially for an EV. And I might be going a little too overboard here, but when you do step inside, when you interact with the technology, when you take a look at the interior and you're sitting in these really nice seats, you have to start questioning whether the BMW iX is a better EV than the Tesla Model X. Now again, that might be going a little too far, but I do believe that the BMW iX, especially when it comes to the suspension feel, the way it drives and handles, it's more reflective of a crossover that is maybe around $150,000, most because of those features. When you think about how you have the heated interior where the door panels do heat up, even the center armrest, that's just something you don't really see in this price range. And that to me really goes a long way. Now, as I talked about earlier in this video, I personally feel the BMW iX is a concept car that you can buy today. Now, you can take that as a negative or a positive, because from the exterior, it certainly looks like a concept car. But when you take a look at the features that it's offering, such as the grills that can heal itself, which is just phenomenal, or the fact they've used this vehicle as a promotional piece where you can color shift, and even with, again, the heated panels for the interior. This to me seems like a promotional product that is going to showcase where BMW is going to be 10, 15, 20 years down the road. And rather than being a vehicle that's on a pedestal circling around with a badge or a plate saying this is the vehicle of the future, and people are wondering, oh wow, that's what we're going to be driving in 2030, 2035, You have a tangible product that you can go to a dealership, check out, test drive, and fully experience. As you probably could tell there, the BMW assistant was definitely hearing what I had to say. Every time I would say BMW, we've turned that off, it would then respond. So again, I love having the assistants. BMW does it, Mercedes-Benz does it. I just think it really adds to that futuristic 21st century feel, and that's exactly what you would expect for a crossover at around $100,000, but also an EV as well. But speaking of an EV, this actually is probably one of the smoother EVs I have driven. Now, the i4 I really liked, but it's essentially a 4 Series that's electrified. Whereas the iX, and I really haven't talked about this too much, the iX isn't necessarily built on the cluster architecture platform. It's compatible so that it's built with other gas-powered models in Germany, but it's not directly related to the entire lineup. And you certainly feel that with the driving dynamics. It doesn't feel like any other BMW I've driven, whereas the i4 certainly is. Again, it's a 4 Series, but this has its own feel. It has its own demeanor. And I gotta be honest, for a vehicle in this market, and if you're somebody that's really looking to go in the EV direction, the iX, if you can look past the exterior, that's where I think you're really going to love this crossover, even at around $90,000. The features, I think, are fantastic, especially when you're comparing it to a Tesla Model X. I mean, you're paying at base $114,000, where you're saving, what, $14,000? Or actually, my math is horrible. That's about $24,000. So you're saving a good amount of money where you can get the features that you want, you get the luxury, you get the comfort, and really, I think you get a futuristic vehicle and a concept vehicle that you can buy today. And there's not a lot of brands really pushing the envelope in that way. I think a lot of brands, especially with Audi, with the e-tron, now, even though it's not a direct competitor, size-wise, it's basically the same. But I think BMW is really making a statement with this crossover. They're saying, this is what we can offer you. This is what you'll expect in an i7 or an iX5 or whatever they want to badge their electric vehicles. And I think when you experience this crossover, when you feel the suspension and how they've been able to really manage the weight distribution of this crossover, when you factor in the dual electric motors and just the overall weight, this to me, I think, is an engineering feat. And that's why I think that when you look at what this vehicle is offering, it's very phenomenal. I'm not going to say I'm impressed. I use that word too much, but I'm very excited about the iX, having driven it now and seeing it in person and really digesting everything. When you first see it in person, you're wondering, like, what is BMW doing? And then when you take 15 to 20 minutes or maybe even a day, if the dealership gives you the keys for a weekend, you then really understand what BMW is offering here. So getting into the driving dynamics for the BMW iX, since I've been doing a lot of talking about the features and how it does compare to the Tesla Model X and where it fits in the EV market, I'm currently in sport mode. And before I forget, I want to get into the regen braking. Now, currently I am in adaptive when it comes to that braking. And what that means is that, say you're in traffic and the vehicle in front of me starts slowing down and I get off the accelerator, it will brake for me, which is great to see. But you can customize that where it's not too aggressive, maybe it's a little lighter, and it really just fits your driving style. However, and I haven't really seen a lot of people talk about this, when you do put the drive mode in B, and you get off the accelerator, it brakes very aggressively. So just get off the accelerator here, and it slows down almost as aggressive as the accelerations are. And I think for a lot of EV enthusiasts, some people are definitely gonna like that. They're gonna like the aggressiveness so that you can actually one-pedal drive. Because there are some EVs out there that there really isn't that regen braking that really kicks in. And that's one feature I think a lot of people are excited about, where they don't need to constantly get on that brake pedal. And I think also the fact that there is adaptive braking, that is great to see for a vehicle in this price range. But since we are in sport mode, let's talk about the steering feel. Also the suspension as well. We do have air suspension, and we also have the dynamic handling package. And what I'm going to say here is that when you do put it in sport mode, the steering does stiffen up a bit, does give you a bit more weight, but it's not so aggressive like you would experience with, say, an M3, M4, or other M Sport models. And again, I think that's one thing that BMW is really trying to figure out. They're really trying to find that nice balance where it's still giving you the sporty and aggressive driving dynamics, but also they still need to factor in the weight of this vehicle as well. And I think BMW is doing a better job than competitors, especially against Tesla. Tesla doesn't really have the most engaging driving dynamics. Sure, you have the performance, you have the propulsion, but outside of the gull wing doors and some other features as well with the interior, it's just not necessarily, I would say, the most enthusiast-focused car in that way. Whereas I think BMW is still giving you an EV that you can enjoy and have a lot of fun on weekday commutes while your M2 or M3 is in the garage waiting to be driven for the weekends. And I think that's where BMW is at least moving in the right direction, because with the Audi e-tron, not the most enjoyable to drive. Yeah, it's an EV and it's a bit more luxurious than a Tesla, and I think it's better than the Jaguar I-Pace, but when it comes to driving dynamics, that's where it certainly falters. Whereas the BMW iX, I think BMW has done a great job of really sprinkling in some sporty DNA. So now that we are away from the center of town, let's get on it here. I want to feel the propulsion and just see what this iX is made of. Oh my gosh. It's instant torque. Now, the 0 to 60 is around 4.4 seconds. And even though a lot of people are going to say, oh, it's still slower than a Tesla, I got to be honest, what the iX is offering from an overall standpoint, it's more than a Tesla. Yeah, it doesn't have the gull wing doors, but who cares? I think when you look at the interior, when you look at the driving environment, it's certainly, I think, a standout. Again, it's making a statement. It's making a bold statement and saying, this is the standard of excellence that you're going to have to really give your vehicles if you want to take on BMW in the future. And that's why I'm going to overlook the exterior from that standpoint, just because I think this is really a technological achievement, but also an EV achievement for 2022. This is the first EV that I think from a legacy manufacturer is one of the best that we've come across. And we just really can't say that a lot for other EVs, whether it is the Polestar 2 or even the BMW i4. The i4 is still an EV version of a 4 Series. This is exactly what we've been waiting for and have been wanting to experience from an EV. And it's just interesting that it's the iX that's delivering that for us. So I want to get off the accelerator here. I want to give one punch. And it's just quiet. And you don't really hear a lot of road noise either. And it's very well insulated. And I just think that overall, you're going to love the driving experience. Now today, there's a lot of traffic out there. It's back to summer weather. People are out and about. So I really can't fully experience this crossover when it comes to the handling and even just the straight line performance. But the glimpse that I'm getting here from the iX, this is really phenomenal. This is fantastic. And dare I say, sensational. And again, it's a surprise because you really can't judge a book by its cover. And I think what the iX is giving you here is quite a bit. And I'm really not necessarily speechless, but I'm surprised because I was there for the unveiling when it came to the showroom. And I'm like, all right, I think the pricing is a bit too much. I don't really know what it's offering. And then really getting behind the wheel, experiencing it, researching about it, understanding what this crossover is offering. And now when I compare it to the price point for the Tesla Model X, I don't know. I think the iX not only can give Tesla a run for their money, but it's one of the best EVs that I think money can buy right now. And like I said, if you can look past the exterior, if you can look past that, the larger grills, and even the boxier shape, and you're just focused on the driving experience, you want the luxury, you want the nice suspension feel, you want the technology, BMW is giving you that. And this is just a taste of what BMW is going to offer us in the future. And I'm actually, even though I'm more of an enthusiast that wants to experience an M3, M4, and wants to have that gas-powered engine and just more that traditional and conventional experience, when it comes to the EV lineup for BMW, I can't wait to dive in and experience what they're offering for the next 5 to 10 years. So to wrap up this review, despite the controversial road presence and the large kidney grills, the BMW iX not only is an emphatic statement for the EV market, this is one giant leap for BMW. Because even though I think that the exterior is very concept car-like, I don't think the exterior is complete. I feel as though that there's something missing here with the iX. It's the interior where everything begins to make sense. Starting off with the technology such as BMW's xDrive50 system, which we already experienced with the i4, also the new digital gauge cluster, and of course the head-up display. But more importantly, it's the optional features that I think really go a long way, such as the heated center console, the heated door panels. That's something we don't really see on gas-powered models, let alone an electric car. But also the ability to go with crystallized buttons, which I know that the BMW X7 does offer, but that again is something we don't really have yet in this price range. And I feel as though the BMW is not holding any punches. That this is really a vehicle that is meant to make a statement. That it's not supposed to be, and it's not designed to be, an automotive juggernaut that's going to sell 100,000 units per year here in the US. And it's not going to be a vehicle that I think is really going to compete head-to-head with a Tesla Model X. And it really isn't priced that way either. Because at a starting price at around $83,000, and also factoring in the federal tax credits, this is substantially more affordable than the Tesla Model X. And I just think that what BMW is giving you here is a premium luxury experience in the only way that they can do, rather than what Tesla's offering, which is that technology and the gull-wing doors, more that eye-catching aesthetics and more of the more eye candy that we see from Tesla, which is not a surprise at all. But BMW is giving you more of an overall value that we're just not seeing from Audi and Jaguar yet, where you have the interior comfort, you have the interior spacing, you have the practicality, the cargo room, but also you have the range as well. Up to 324 miles of range, 304 for this particular model with the larger tire size. And for a flagship, it's supposed to set the tone. It's supposed to tell us exactly what we're going to expect from an EV lineup, and it does that job extremely well. And that's why I feel that the BMW iX, even though it's going to be an acquired taste for some, if you're looking for a premium luxury crossover that is EV that you want to trade your X5 in for, the iX is definitely that. You're not missing out on anything. You're not sacrificing anything, more importantly. You're not sacrificing the interior spacing. You're not sacrificing the comfort. You're not sacrificing the features. And that, to me, really means a lot as a consumer. Even though as an enthusiast, this would not be my first choice at $83,000. It would not be my first choice at $100,000 either, just because I prefer a gas-powered model. But for an EV, this to me is far and away better than any other crossover, electric crossover, but also far and away better than any other EV I reviewed so far on this channel. And I gotta be honest, when you look at the price point, I think BMW could have priced this at around $150,000 just when you factor in the features that you have here to work with. But also when you factor in the performance for the BMW iX, where you get 516 horsepower and over 540 pound-feet of torque, you get that propulsion, you get the nice weighted steering, you get a driving experience that I think is better than the Tesla Model X. And even though I'm not going to sit here and say that the iX is better than the Model X, I do believe that it is making a statement in the EV world and letting everyone know this is the standard of excellence. This is what you're going to expect from a BMW in the future. And quite honestly, even though I am not somebody that is an EV enthusiast, I'm very excited about the BMW lineup moving forward, because if this is a small taste of what the driving experience is going to be like in 2030, 2035, 2040, I can't wait to get behind the wheel of what they have next down the line. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. Also make sure to follow me on Instagram at Boston Autoblog so you can see what I'm up to and what vehicles I'll be featuring in the future. And I will see you guys next time.